You're now watching Your Wealth, and this is where we talk about all the business trends here in Zimbabwe or even internationally. We get to talk about the money markets, the money matters, the entrepreneurship in everything that has to do with money. And if you've been following through with Zida, the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency, there is something new that happened. And today in studio, we've got with me, Nomfazwe Matimba. I hope I got that correct, right?
You did get it correct, Nina. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for coming through to the show. And you're the legal officer for Zida.
I am.
Right. Now, let's get straight into it and talk about this. Could you explain for our viewers, at its core, what the newly launched investor grievance response mechanism is designed to achieve for investors in Zimbabwe, and why Zida deemed its establishment a critical step at this time?
Thank you so much, Noma. So the investor grievance response mechanism was launched by Zida, within Zida, and is going to be facilitated by Zida. At its core, the IGRM, as we call it in short, is designed to assist investors in the grievances that they may have between them and the MDAs. And this can arise from policy shifts or disputes, that any other dispute that can arise with an MDA.
Mm-hmm.
So why is Zida so it's necessary to create this initiative is so that we can enhance investor confidence in Zimbabwe and to ensure that our investors are not aggrieved such that they end up divesting out of Zimbabwe.
So, actually coming up with this IGRM, was it a concern that there have been some challenges and problems when it comes to the investors here in Zimbabwe, or some complaints coming through to you that you actually decided to have this designed for this?
Yes, there are a couple of challenges that we have within. Obviously, there's going to be policy shifts, policy changes where investors are affected. But also, we are also in line with international best practices. So when you look at the World Bank reports, the OECD reports, COMESA, even SADC, the countries are moving towards a better and more transparent resolution of grievances. And to do this, there's an insistence to ensure that there's an early grievance resolution mechanism. So whilst there were other issues that were happening in-house, we're also trying to align with international best practices so that we can be able to give our investors the best investment climate.
Fantastic. And if I'm correct, Zimbabwe is actually among the few countries in Africa that have actually adopted this policy. So now, what are Zida's immediate operational priorities for the mechanism, and what initial benchmarks or early indicators of success do you hope to see in its first few months?
So one of the initial and the first benchmarks that we'll see to see that this has been a success is to look at how we may affect policy. So as you know, if repeat investors keep coming with the same issue, then it's obviously a pain point. So we will need to engage with the relevant MDA and to see how we can improve the policy to ensure that it is investor friendly.
Fantastic. And I'm sure that it's not just you as Zida working alone in order for you to ensure that this actually comes to place. Who are some of the people or maybe some of the organizations that you're working with so that this can be put in place?
Thank you so much, Noma. As you may know, Zida has a one-stop investment services center, abbreviated as OSISC. So our OSISC has various MDAs within it, and they are there to support us, to give us support, to be able to ensure that we can be able to take our issues to the relevant MDA in a very short space of time. And just to further highlight, Zida has entered into various collaboration agreements with different MDAs, and some are ongoing. These are always updated in our quarterly reports. So we have agreements with entities like ZIMRA, like NASA. So whenever we have a dispute, when we have any issue that arises with that MDA, we can call upon we will leverage against that relationship that we already have in existence.
And, talking about that as well, there's also a need for awareness, when it comes to this new IGRM, in order for, even the investors to know about this, everybody who's part of it to be able to know what is happening. So how does Zida plan to proactively communicate and educate both local and international investors about this new mechanism?
We're already here trying to promote it, so we hope that this will increase reach to our local and international investors. But it is also on all our social media platforms, and every investor that comes into Zida, at every reception, we've got it out there to say you can scan and know more about the IGRM And we'll be continuing with these interviews until we have managed to reach all our investors. And any investor who comes with an issue with an MDA, we direct them to use the IGRM because we want to use it because it's a transparent, efficient way to resolve disputes, and it will enable them to also track how we are doing as we go.
Lovely. So now, do you have like a plan to say, we have a 1-year plan to say by this time, maybe we would have achieved this, or we would have got some feedback from the investors and other people telling us how this is going? Is there something like that?
Indeed, there is something like that. We do have a plan in-house. It is in our standard operating procedures to see how we will measure ourselves. I indicated earlier that we will see by how much policy change would have affected in the country, but also it is a measure for us to see how Zimbabwe is doing, and we can measure that with looking at the number of inquiries that come through the IGRM. So that will tell us whether we are going in the right direction or we need to change.
But I also believe that it's not just as easy for you to actually go through that mile. There will definitely be some challenges along the way. Or what can you say can be some not exactly barriers, but challenges that you say, we can face this, but we can walk through it?
Obviously, there are a couple of challenges that we will face, and perhaps maybe a couple of delays from various MDAs when we send through, because we put an ambitious timeline to say we would like the MDAs to respond within 5 days, and because they are also tasked with other situations in their various job descriptions, this might be a bit tight, but we hope to leverage on the existing relationships, like I mentioned earlier, the collaboration agreements that we have, and to further sign more collaboration agreements. But this does not mean that the entities that we do not have collaboration agreements with, we do not communicate with them. We communicate with all our MDAs, and we want to ensure that we are in good books and we can be able to leverage and to bring up any issues that arises.
So now, can you outline the internal infrastructure and interagency collaborations that ZEDA has put in place to ensure swift and efficient processing of grievances from day one?
Okay, so for the internal infrastructure, if you go through the submissions on our webpage, you notice that you start from a submission form. The investor is required to submit their grievance through ZEDA, where they outline all the issues that is going on, the grievance, the effect that it has on their investment, how much it will affect the investment, the jobs that will be lost if this is not rectified. From there onwards, it goes through to review and assessment. And here we have created a system where we'll be ranking them high, medium, low risk in terms of divestment. So whatever the investor manages to put through is what we'll assess to see how we'll rank it and how we'll deal with the matter. Following that, we will have collaboration and engagements with the various MDAs. This is where we call upon and leverage on our existing relationships. So we have, as you asked, which entities are assisting us. All of the MDAs will have to assist us because we cannot do this alone. This is a national event because the investment agenda is a national policy.
Lovely.
Yes, and then afterwards we'll then go to the settlement of the matter. So where we'll call in the investor to ask and sometimes we can even have a sit down with the various MDA where necessary with the investor.
All right, that's fantastic. Now let's talk about this more when we come back from this short break and we get to hear more about this IGRM. You're still watching Your Wealth. My name is Nomalanga Tembo, and in studio today I am together with Nomfazwe Matimba, and she's the legal officer from the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency. She's here to talk to us about the IGRM. If you haven't heard, that is what she is here to talk to us about. If you're an investor, or if you know other people who want to come through into Zimbabwe to do some investments, this is the right platform for you to be today. So now, let's continue from where we left off before we went for the break. You were telling us about something. Please do explain further.
Okay, so I was highlighting the internal infrastructure, and we're just gotten to engagement with the various MDAs. So when we have reviewed and assessed the application in the IGRM, ZEDA will take the matter to the relevant MDA and negotiate on behalf of the investor. Where necessary and where it is required, we'll have the investor have a sit down with the MDA as well, and ZEDA will be in there as well. So I guess in essence, it's just saying ZIDA is the middleman for the investor to say where you are failing to get access and attention, we are here to assist the investors for that. So following that, we'll then have a final result. We can call it that, where we will tell the investor how the matter has been resolved. Has there been a policy change? What has the MTA resolved to do regarding the matter that has been brought to them? So essentially, that's the four-pronged approach to the IGRM.
Lovely. And I think it's also very important for us to just have a background of what used to happen in the past before this IGRM was put in place.
Okay, before the IGRM, investors would bring in their grievances through letters. Some would come for meetings, and sometimes it was fragmented, because you had them sometimes going directly to the MDA. So when that happens, when they go directly to the MDA and the matter is resolved, we will never know that this policy change was effected because of a situation that an investor has faced. But now having the IGRM will ensure that we can keep track of the policies that are not investor friendly in the country, and we can improve them as we go.
I believe it's only been just a few days, I suppose, when this was introduced. And now, have you seen any incoming through as of yet? How was it like?
So not yet. Not yet on the platform, but we continue to receive letters. We do then tell them to go through the platform, because we believe that it is a transparent. It's more transparent, it's more efficient, there's live tracking of what is happening, so there's accountability on everyone to say, if it's in ZIDA, has ZIDA done their part? If it's with the investor who's been required to submit further information, have they done their part?
Right.
If it is with the MDA, have we received anything from the MDA? So there's accountability, efficiency, and transparency as well.
That is so true. And I think this platform is actually just the right way and everything that the investors needed. And I'm sure now that you're actually putting across some awareness campaigns and everything in order for the investors to know what is happening, then now it's actually going to be something that is great. Now, let's talk about it, regionally here in Africa. We spoke about some awareness campaigns back here in Zimbabwe. Let's talk about it regionally, because these investors are going to be coming through from the region, internationally and stuff.
Yes.
How are you doing it as well when it comes to those broader and wider places?
Thank you so much. We have a mailing list for our investors. So they have already received emails to the effect that we have this platform that has been launched. But further on, we will be we have agreements with various investment promotion agencies across Africa. So we'll also be sending through to them so that they can also raise awareness in their countries using that. But any platform where ZIDA goes, any conference, any workshop, this will also be a highlight to ensure that all the investors that are in that place are able to know that there is the IGRM, which is there for the investors, for their ease.
Fantastic indeed. Now, beyond resolving individual dispute, how does ZIDA envision this new investor grievance response mechanism contributing to a more robust, predictable, and attractive investment climate in Zimbabwe in the short to medium term?
Thank you, Norma. As I indicated earlier, the World Bank has highlighted in their various publications that resolving disputes earlier helps to attract investment. So what it will do for us in here is that it will enhance investor confidence. When investors know that there is someone willing to hear them, willing to attend to their issues, and willing to address them, it will enhance the investor confidence, which in turn leads to enhanced more FDI flowing into the country. And because now they know that we've got a transparent system that is at play, that is in work, so it will enhance our country, and it will make us a better investment destination for the investors. So we do hope to see more investors coming in. But above all that, there was the World Bank Ease of Doing Business, which was suspended in 2020, and it has just recently been relaunched as the Be Ready, the World Bank Be Ready Index, which is used to assess how a country is doing. We are hoping as ZIDA that as we go, as this IGRM is launched, we'll be able to rank higher, because we have managed to ensure that we have managed to put through a dispute resolution mechanism, which is the IGRM, which will help investors in the country.
And, some people may actually have that question to say, but why now? Why now really? Why this particular time?
I think it was always in the works. Yes, and it was also a matter of developing our own systems to have the support relationships in place prior to starting this, because we do need the support from all the MDAs to ensure that we have this. So now that we have the relationships, we have the support with the MDAs, we will be able to enhance the investor experience in Zimbabwe.
So in cases where grievances are highlight systematic bottlenecks like delays in permits or licensing, how will ZEDA escalate those issues to drive policy or regulatory reform?
So essentially it will follow the same process, but when we engage the MDA, we will highlight where there are bottlenecks in their system. And at times we might give proposals and identify areas where they can improve. Hopefully that will ensure that there is policy change in that regard.
Lovely. And I think, there is a lot that we really need to talk about when it comes to this IGRM, because people really need to know about it, especially the investors, about their accountability, about everything that has to do with the platform. So for now, please do stand by. We'll come back in the last segment. You're still watching Your Wealth, where we talk about everything that has to do with money. And now we're continuing with a conversation where we're talking about the IGRM, which is a new mechanism that has been put in place by ZEDA. And now we want to talk about the small scale investors, because I think in the last two segments we've focused mainly on the international, the regional, but not necessarily maybe the small scale, as well. So now, what safeguards are in place to ensure that smaller investors or startups can equally benefit from the mechanism, not just large scale or foreign investors?
Thank you, Norma, and good to be back. Just to highlight that at ZEDA, all investments are important, in as much as they can differ with scale, the big investors and the smaller investors, but they're all the same. So this platform is open to all, and we'll also give it the relevant time of day to ensure that we assist them. We already do assist investors, as I mentioned earlier, that we do have walk-ins, we have meetings, and some send their letters, and we already assist them. So by virtue of the IGRM just being there, it does not discriminate based on size or scale of investment. It is essentially just there for everyone. It is how it affects you. So it can affect you at 100%. And that means one person is losing their job in your investment. But that still means that it's important, because the rate that is affecting is critical. So it is open to everyone, small businesses, startups, those who think they are small, but we don't consider them small, because every investment counts in achieving the goals of the country.
That is so true, and that is actually a very important thing to note right there. So has ZEDA benchmarked this mechanism against similar models in other regional or global markets, and what best practices were adopted or adapted?
So when we developed this, we were looking at the World Bank. We were looking at the World Bank IGRM, how they have developed them in other countries, and we have used a similar manner. But as I mentioned earlier, it is aligned with international best practices, because there's been a move to ensure that disputes do not escalate, because when they do escalate, investors are going to lose money. And it is going to cost even the MDA when they go to courts, when they go to arbitration. So there's been a trend to move away from that, to ensure that some of these issues that can be settled earlier can be settled earlier. So in the region, we've got Ethiopia. They launched theirs. We've got the Rwanda Development Board. They have their own investment promotion, their own IGRM. And under the COMESA Common Investment Agreement, there is a move to ensure that each country has their own national grievance mechanism. So Zimbabwe has become, I'm probably thinking that we are one of the first countries in the COMESA region to launch our IGRM, which is monumental.
And hopefully this is something that is going to actually bring in more foreign investment as well into Zimbabwe, right? Now, it's also very important, not just for the investors to know about this, but also even the in-house training when it comes to the offices in the house, the Zida offices and partner agencies. So what kind of training have you put in place for capacity building professionally, and so that they can be handled professionally and efficiently when it comes to the investor complaints?
So Zida is always open. We're always open to engaging our MDAs, and we always do engage our MDAs. In late 2024, we had a training where we invited the various MDAs that mostly interact with investors, and we were training on the IGRM. We highlighted how it was going to be launched and the process that it was going to take throughout. So we have done trainings, but we are still open to train more people, more people who deal with investors who want to be trained, and as well as other MDAs. We are open to do that.
So how does the grievance mechanism align with broader reforms under Zimbabwe's ease of doing business strategy or national development strategy one?
So the NDS one speaks of ease of doing business.
Yes.
And I'm sure everyone doesn't want to be waiting in line for 30 days just for their letter to receive we have received your letter response. So what this will do is it will expedite the process. So where something was going to take 30 days for a particular person, this will probably take less time, and we are enhancing that. We want to also enhance the whole of government approach, so that when we work together as a government, we are able to attract more investment. Like it is always said, Zimbabwe is open for business, so that we can show our openness for business when we enhance that. So I believe that is one way that we are enhancing and also aligning with the NDS one and two when it is brought.
Yes, that's correct. Now, in the event of maybe cross-border investment disputes, will this mechanism interface with the international arbitration or bilateral investment treaties?
So perhaps just to highlight, we probably missed this earlier on, the IGRM is between an investor and the MDA.
Yes.
So it is when a matter is now in courts, in arbitration, Zida will stand aside and ensure that the process takes its own course. So, for instance, if a matter is in the courts and it is reported to Zida, it is difficult to then engage and give a decision on that, because now it is with a higher authority. However, if a matter goes to arbitration following the grievance, I am sure that all the matters discussed in the IGRM platform will be used as evidence in the grievance resolution whenever it is taken to arbitration or to international courts.
Okay. That is also very important to note as well, because now I think there would be some confusion around that as to whether Zida would also be there present when it actually gets to such a state, right? Now, what role, if any, will private sector associations or business chambers play in supporting or interfacing with this grievance mechanism?
So associations, they will assist in raising awareness. They have a larger reach. They have a huge community. So we hope that they will engage their community as well, to highlight to them that we now have an investor grievance response mechanism, and we can make use of it, because I am sure that they would be having issues as a community. So that will enhance that. And we will also engage them so that we also raise awareness from our end.
And I understand that you've actually spoken, about how things used to be done in the past. But I believe that we also have some other Zimbabwe's investment space as well that has got more in it. So how does the investor grievance response mechanism differ from previous or existing complaint handling frameworks in Zimbabwe's investment space?
So essentially, this is more transparent. We want to ensure that once you submit your grievance form, you can follow up to see what is happening with your grievance. And as well, it is efficient, and we hope to be able to bring the result that is required by the investors.
Lovely. Thank you very much for coming through. And I'm sure the viewers have actually gained more knowledge, and now they know better how to do things instead of sending letters, but actually going onto the platform.
Yes.
It has been amazing being with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Norma. And just to say that we are now in a digital world. So we want to be
Yes.
able to ensure that any investor facing a challenge and is in Hong Kong, in Dubai, in London, can be able to access the platform without the need to sit down, write a letter, post it, you know. So it
Yes.
also provides efficiency.
That
But
is
just
so
to say
true.
in closing, the IGRM is here for investors and Zida is here to serve the investors. As we always say, and we are always unearthing potential. So I hope this unearths potential within Zimbabwe's investment space.
Oh, thank you very much for coming through and giving us this vital information.
Thank you, Norma. It was a pleasure being here.
Thank you so much. And now you've heard it for yourselves. You no longer have to wait for 30 days for you to send a letter and then wait for a response and all those things. Now we've got a new mechanism in place that has been put by Zida. So we do hope that you're actually going to look into those platforms and get everything that you need to know. For now, it's goodbye.